The Medical Missionary Manual, Chapter 7, How Medical Missionary Institutions Should Operate. The Blueprint for Medical Missionary Center Evangelism. Frontline Medical Missionary Units, Small City Centers. Our workers are to go into the cities. Henceforth, medical missionary work is to be carried forward with an earnestness with which it has never yet been carried. This work is the door through which the truth is to find entrance to the large cities. Counsels on Health 392. Let the Lord's work go forward. Let the medical missionary and the educational work go forward. I am sure that this is our great lack. Earnest, devoted, intelligent, capable workers. In every large city, there should be a representation of true medical missionary work. Let many now ask, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? It is the Lord's purpose that his method of healing without drugs shall be brought into prominence in every large city through our medical institutions. Counsels on Health 393 to 394. There is no change in the messages that God has sent in the past. The work in the cities is the essential work for this time. When the cities are worked as God would have them, the result will be the setting in operation of a mighty movement, such as we have not yet witnessed. Medical Ministry 304. But warnings have been given against living in or making large centers in the cities. The trade unions and confederacies of the world are a snare. Keep out of them. Because of these unions and confederacies, it will soon be very difficult for our institutions to carry on their work in the cities. My warning is this: keep out of the cities. Build no sanitariums in the cities. Educate our people to get out of the cities and into the country, where they can obtain a small piece of land and make a home for themselves and their children. Our restaurants must be in the cities, for otherwise, the workers in these restaurants could not reach the people and teach them the principles of right living. And for the present, we shall have to occupy meeting houses in the cities. But ere long, there will be such strife and confusion in the cities that those who wish to leave them will not be able. We must be preparing for these issues. This is the light that is given me. Country Living 10 through 11. Read the entire booklet. Many small medical missionary centers are to be established in the cities. We must do more than we have done to reach the people of our cities. We are not to erect large buildings in the cities, but over and over again, the light has been given me that we should establish in all our cities small plants which shall be centers of influence. Counsels on Health 481. Treatment rooms. In every city where we have a church, there is need of a place where treatment can be given. Among the homes of our church members, there are few that afford room and facilities for the proper care of the sick. A place should be provided where treatment may be given for common ailments. The building might be inelegant and even rude, but it should be furnished with facilities for giving simple treatments. These skillfully employed would prove a blessing not only to our own people, but to their neighbors, and might be the means of calling the attention of many to health principles. Counsels on Health 468. I have been given light that in many cities it is advisable for a restaurant to be connected with treatment rooms. The two can cooperate in upholding right principles. In connection with these, it is sometimes advisable to have rooms that will serve as lodgings for the sick. These establishments will serve as feeders to the sanitariums located in the country and would better be conducted in rented buildings. We are not to erect in the cities large buildings in which to care for the sick, because God has plainly indicated that the sick can be better cared for outside the cities. 7 Testimonies 60. Lecture halls. As a people, we have been given the work of making known the principles of health reform. In connection with our city missions, there should be suitable rooms where those in whom an interest has been awakened can be gathered for instruction. Councils on Health 443. Arrangements should be made to hold meetings in connection with our restaurants. Whenever possible, let a room be provided where the patrons can be invited to lectures on the science of health and Christian temperance, where they can receive instruction and temperance topics, but also on other appropriate Bible subjects. As the people are taught how to preserve physical health, many opportunities will be found to sow the seeds of the gospel of the kingdom. Councils on Health 481. Successful evangelistic work can be done in connection with medical missionary work. It is as these lines of work are united that we may expect to gather the most precious fruit for the Lord. Medical Ministry 26-27. The principles of health reform are to be promulgated as a part of the work in these cities. The voice of the third angel's message is to be heard with power. Let the teachings of health reform be brought into every effort made to get the light of truth before the people. Evangelism 533. Gospel workers should be able also to give instruction in the principles of healthful living. Thousands need and would gladly receive instruction concerning the simple methods of treating the sick, methods that are taking the place of the use of poisonous drugs. Ministry of Healing 146. Health talks will be given, publications will be multiplied. The principles of health reform will be received with favor, and many will be enlightened. The influences that are associated with health reform will commend it to the judgment of all who want light, and they will advance step by step to receive the special truths for this time. 6 Testimonies 379. For more information on lecture halls, see Councils on Health 37-40, 422, 452, 449, 469, 481. Medical Ministry 26-27, 147, 190. Hygienic restaurants. While in New York, in the winter of 1901, I received light in regard to the work in that great city. Night after night, the course that our brethren should pursue passed before me. In Greater New York, the message is to go forth as a lamp that burneth. God will raise up laborers for this work, and his angels will go before them. It was presented to me that we should not rest satisfied because we have a vegetarian restaurant in Brooklyn, but that others should be established in other sections of the city. The people living in one part of Greater New York do not know what is going on in other parts of that great city. Men and women who eat at the restaurants established in different places will become conscious of an improvement in health. Their confidence once gained, they will be more ready to accept God's special message of truth. Wherever medical missionary work is carried on in our large cities, cooking schools should be held. And wherever a strong educational missionary work is in progress, a hygienic restaurant of some sort should be established, which shall give a practical illustration of the proper selection and the healthful preparation of foods. Councils on Health 487-488. I have been instructed that one of the principal reasons why hygienic restaurants and treatment rooms should be established in the centers of large cities is that by this means the attention of leading men will be called to the third angel's message. Noticing that these restaurants are conducted in a way altogether different from the way in which ordinary restaurants are conducted, men of intelligence will then begin to inquire into the reasons for the difference in business methods, and will investigate the principles that lead us to serve superior food. Thus they will be led to a knowledge of the message for this time. Counsels on Health, 491. See also pages 408 to 411, 443, 449 to 451, 471 to 496, Medical Ministry 265 to 281. Cooking schools. In connection with our city missions, there should be suitable rooms where those in whom an interest has been awakened can be gathered for instruction. Cooking schools should be held. The people are to be taught how to prepare wholesome food. They are to be shown the need of discarding unhealthful foods. But we should never advocate a starvation diet. It is possible to have a wholesome, nutritious diet without the use of tea, coffee, and flesh food. The work of teaching the people how to prepare a dietary that is at once wholesome and appetizing is of the utmost importance. The work of health reform is the Lord's means for lessening suffering in our world and for purifying His church. Teach the people that they can act as God's helping hand. This work bears the signature of heaven and will open doors for the entrance of other precious truths. There is room for all to labor who will take hold of this work intelligently. Counsels on Health, 443 to 444. Wherever the truth is carried, the people should be given instruction in regard to the preparation of healthful food. God desires that in every place the people should be taught by skillful teachers how to utilize wisely the products that they can raise or readily obtain in their section of the country. Thus the poor, as well as those in better circumstances, can be taught to live healthfully. We are not to neglect this work because of the effect we may fear it will have on the sale of goods manufactured in our health food factories. This is not the most important matter. Our work is to show the people how they can obtain and prepare wholesome food, how they can cooperate with God in restoring in themselves His image. A Call to Medical Evangelism 31. For more information, Counsels on Health 443, 471 to 496, Medical Ministry 256 to 281. Health and religious bookstores and lending libraries. The press is a powerful means to move the minds and hearts of the people. You should be more earnest to get reading matter of an elevating and saving character before the people. There should be more earnest efforts made to enlighten the people upon the great subject of health reform. Tracts of 4, 8, 12, 16, and more pages containing pointed, well-written articles on this great question should be scattered like the leaves of autumn. Counsels on Health 465 to 466. Those who come to our restaurants should be supplied with reading matter. Their attention should be called to our literature on temperance and dietetic system reform, and leaflets treating on the lessons of Christ should also be given them. Counsels on Health 482. Hold up the principles of health reform, and let the Lord lead the honest in heart. Present the principles of temperance in their most attractive form. Circulate the books that give instruction in regard to healthful living. Counsels on Health 479. Instruction should be given upon health and temperance. Seek to arouse the intellect and the conscience. Bring into service all the talent at command, and follow up the work with publications upon the subject. Educate, educate, educate is the message that has been impressed upon me. Counsels on Health 449. The books containing the special message to come to the world at this present time should be more freely circulated. Why, he inquired, do not our people appreciate and circulate more widely the books containing the warning regarding Satan's work. Why do we not give greater effort to circulating the books that point out Satan's plans to counterwork the work of God, that uncover his plans and point out his deceptions? 9 Testimonies 67. Much more should have been accomplished in the sale of our books than we see accomplished today. 9 Testimonies 70. Because books were being sold at low prices, some being especially reduced for the occasion, many were purchased, and some by persons not of our faith. But dissatisfaction was expressed by some of our own people. One said, "A stop must be put to this work, or our business will be spoiled." As one brother was carrying away an armful of books, a canvasser laid his hand upon his arm and said, "My brother, what are you doing with so many books?" Then I heard the voice of our counselor saying, "Forbid them not. This is a work that should be done. The end is near. Already much time has been lost, when these books should have been in circulation. Sell them far and near. Scatter them like the leaves of autumn. This work is to continue without the forbiddings of anyone. Souls are perishing out of Christ. Let them be warned of his soon appearing in the clouds of heaven." 9 Testimonies 72. Lend your neighbors some of our smaller books. If their interest is awakened, take some of the larger books. 9 Testimonies 35. By lending or selling books, by distributing papers, and by holding Bible readings, our lay members could do much in their own neighborhoods. 9 Testimonies 35. Health food stores. Let centers of influence be made in many of the southern cities by the opening of food stores and vegetarian restaurants. Let there also be facilities for the manufacture of simple, inexpensive health foods. But let not selfish, worldly policy be brought into the work, for God forbids this. Let unselfish men take hold of this work in the fear of God and with love for their fellow men. Counsels on Health 493 to 494. Men of ability and economy are to be chosen to take up the food work. For, in order to make it a success, the greatest wisdom and economy must be exercised. Counsels on Health 494. These small city centers should be operated in connection with each other. Religious and health lectures and cooking schools to be united with simple treatments. Counsels on Health 469 to 470. Circulation of books and pamphlets in connection with hygienic restaurants. Counsels on Health 482. Religious and health lectures and cooking schools united with hygienic restaurants. Counsels on Health 481. Lecture rooms and cooking schools to be united with the city missions. Counsels on Health 443. Medical missionary work always combined with cooking schools and educational work with hygienic restaurants. Counsels on Health 487. Health restaurants and treatment rooms. Counsels on Health 488. Centers of influence through food stores and vegetarian restaurants with facilities for the manufacture of simple, inexpensive health foods. Counsels on Health 493. 495 to 496 reveals the ideal plan for the health food factory to be located near the country school. Location of the city centers. Many small centers are to be scattered throughout each city. Counsels on Health 485, 487, 7 Testimonies 55. An inspiring example, a church that obeyed the blueprint. Sabbath morning, November 10, 1900, we entered the San Francisco church and found it crowded to its utmost capacity. As I stood before the people, I thought of the dream and the instruction which had been given me so many years ago, and I was much encouraged. Looking at the people assembled, I felt that I could indeed say, "The Lord has fulfilled His word." During the past few years, the Beehive, A revelation in 1876, when the activities of the then relatively new churches in San Francisco and Oakland were represented as two beehives, in San Francisco has been indeed a busy one. Many lines of Christian effort have been carried forward by our brethren and sisters there. These included visiting the sick and destitute, finding homes for orphans and work for the unemployed, nursing the sick, teaching the truth from house to house, distributing literature, and conducting classes on healthful living and the care of the sick. A school for the children has been conducted in the basement of the Laguna Street Meeting House. For a time, a working men's home and medical mission was maintained. On Market Street, near the City Hall, there were treatment rooms, operated as a branch of the St. Helena Sanitarium. In the same locality was a health food store. Nearer the center of the city, not far from the Call building, was conducted a vegetarian cafe, which was open 6 days in the week and entirely closed on the Sabbath. Along the waterfront, ship mission work was carried on. At various times, our ministers conducted meetings in large halls in the city. Thus, the warning message was given by many. Welfare Ministry 112. Behind the lines, medical missionary outposts, small country centers. Many small medical missionary centers are to be established outside the cities. Sanitariums. The proclamation of the truth in all parts of the world calls for small sanitariums in many places, not in the heart of cities, but in places where city influences will be as little felt as possible. Medical Ministry 159. Many small sanitariums are to be established in places outside the cities. Connected with them, there are to be men and women of ability and consecration who will conduct themselves in the love and fear of God. These institutions are to be training schools. Medical Ministry 156. Small plants should be established. God designs that sanitariums shall be a means of reaching high and low, rich and poor. They are to be so conducted that by their work, attention may be called to the message God has sent to the world. Councils on Health 501. As to drugs being used in our institutions, it is contrary to the light which the Lord has been pleased to give. The drugging business has done more harm to our world and killed more than it has helped or cured. The light was first given to me why institutions should be established. That is, sanitariums were to reform the medical practice of physicians. Medical Ministry 27. Our sanitariums are to be established for one object, the advancement of present truth. Councils on Health 272. The purpose of our health institutions is not first and foremost to be that of hospitals. The health institutions connected with the closing work of the gospel in the earth stand for the great principles of the gospel in all its fullness. If a sanitarium connected with this closing message fails to lift up Christ and the principles of the gospel as developed in the third angel's message, it fails in its most important feature and contradicts the very object of its existence. Medical Ministry 27 to 28. Sanitariums should be small and in the country. Those who have to do with the locating of our sanitariums should prayerfully study the character and aim of sanitarium work. Councils on Health 265. We have lost great advantages by failing to realize the need of a change in our plans in regard to the location of sanitariums. It is the Lord's will that these institutions shall be established outside the city. Councils on Health 265. They should be situated in the country, in the midst of surroundings as attractive as possible. Councils on Health 265. The sick should be cared for away from the bustle of the cities. Councils on Health 265. In retirement, patients will be more readily influenced by the Spirit of God. Councils on Health, 266. Sanitariums should be established in the midst of the most pleasant surroundings, in places not disturbed by the turmoil of the city. Councils on Health, 266. Surround them with the beautiful things of nature. Place them where their hearts will break into song. Councils on Health, 268. Not to be surrounded by wealthy homes. Councils on Health, 270. Not expensive mammoth sanitariums, but home-like institutions in pleasant places. Councils on Health, 211. No sanitariums to be located in Los Angeles. Councils on Health, 166, 231. 7 Testimonies, 85. It is not the Lord's will for His people to erect mammoth sanitariums anywhere. Many sanitariums are to be established. They are not to be too large, but sufficiently complete to do a good and successful work. Councils on Health, 225. The Battle Creek Sanitarium is too large. A great many workers will be required to care for the patients who come. 1/10 of the number of patients who come to that institution is as many as can be cared for with the best results in one medical missionary center. 8 Testimonies, 205. At the General Conference held in Oakland, California, 1903, Dr. J. H. Kellogg made a statement concerning the very building to which this testimony referred. He said, "In erecting our building, we have provision for 296 patients. 1/10 of 296 is 29. We can therefore conclude that 29 or 30 patients' rooms would be the limit of the largest sanitarium, and still adequately care for the physical and spiritual needs of patients, workers, and students. Very strong cautions have been given in regard to strict simplicity and economy, rather than needless appearances and display. See Councils on Health, 214 to 227, 239, 274 to 279, 300, 242, 319, 468, Medical Ministry, 154 to 168. These should be carefully read by anyone considering this work. Sanitariums should not be too close together. It is not generous or right to start a sanitarium work where another is already established. Medical Ministry, 154. It is not His plan for an institution to be in too close proximity to another doing the same kind of work. Medical Ministry, 151. Our institutions for any land are not to be crowded together in one locality. God never designed that the light of truth should be thus restricted. Councils on Health, 216. Plants should be established in various places all over the world. Efforts are to be put forth wherever the need is greatest. Councils on Health, 214. The first question to be settled is, should there be a sanitarium in this locality? If there should be, the path of duty is plain. Medical Ministry, 153. Training schools. The sanitariums established in the future are not to be immense, expensive buildings. Small local sanitariums are to be established in connection with our schools. Medical Ministry, 156. See also Councils on Health, 200. It is well that our training schools for Christian workers should be established near to our health institutions, that the students may be educated in the principles of healthful living. Institutions that send forth workers who are able to give a reason for their faith, and who have a faith which works by love and purifies the soul, are of great value. I have clear instruction that, wherever it is possible, schools should be established near to our sanitariums, that each institution may be a help and strength to the other. He is directed in the establishment of our sanitariums and in the building up of our schools. close to our sanitariums, that they may become efficient mediums in training men and women for the work of ministering to suffering humanity. Counsels on Health 301. Cautions have been given me in reference to the work of training nurses and medical missionary evangelists. We are not to centralize this work in any one place. In every sanitarium established, young men and young women should be trained to be medical missionaries. The Lord will open the way before them as they go forth to work for Him. Counsels on Health 225. Every sanitarium established by Seventh-day Adventists is to be conducted on educational lines. Medical Ministry 175, Counsels on Health 393, 395 to 396. An educational work should be carried on in connection with all our sanitariums. There is a close relation between the work of our schools and our sanitariums, and wherever it is practical, there are decided advantages in having a school in close connection with a sanitarium. There would be in such an arrangement decided advantages to both lines of work. Counsels on Health 242 to 243. Agricultural schools. In various places, properties are to be purchased to be used for sanitarium purposes. Our people should be looking for opportunities to purchase properties away from the cities, on which are buildings already erected and orchards already in bearing. Land is a valuable possession. Counsels on Health 227. It was His design that instead of rebuilding the one large sanitarium, our people should make plants in several places. These smaller sanitariums should have been established where land could be secured for agricultural purposes. It is God's plan that agriculture shall be connected with the work of our sanitariums and schools. Our youth need the education to be gained from this line of work. It is well, and more than well, it is essential that efforts be made to carry out the Lord's plan in this respect. Counsels on Health 223. Students should not be permitted to take so many studies that they will have no time for physical training. The health cannot be preserved unless some portion of each day is given to muscular exertion in the open air. Stated hours should be devoted to manual labor. Medical Ministry 77. The pale, weak student is a continual reproach to health reform. Far better would it be for students to go outdoors and work in the soil. Exercise is good. God designs that all parts of the human machinery shall be worked. There should be regular hours for working. Medical Ministry 79. In all our educational institutions, physical and mental work should have been combined. In vigorous physical exercise, the animal passions find a healthy outlet and are kept in proper bounds. Healthful exercise in the open air will strengthen the muscles, encourage a proper circulation of blood, help to preserve the body from disease, and will be a great help in spirituality. For many years, it has been presented to me that teachers and students should unite in this work. This was done anciently in the schools of the prophets. Medical Ministry 81. Health food factories. The health food business is to be connected with our school, and we should make provision for it. We are erecting buildings for the care of the sick, and food will be required for the patients. Wherever an interest is awakened, the people are to be taught the principles of health reform. If this line of work is brought in, it will be the entering wedge for the work of presenting truth. The health food business should be established here. It should be one of the industries connected with the school. God has instructed me that parents can find work in this industry and send their children to school. But everything that is done should be done with the greatest simplicity. There is to be no extravagance in anything. Solid work is to be done. Just as soon as the helpers in this line of work are controlled by the Holy Spirit, the Lord will give them tact and intelligence in the manufacturing of foods, just as He gave the workers on the tabernacle understanding and ability. Counsels on Health 495 to 496. For more on health food industries, read Counsels on Health 471 to 496. Student industries. In every place where schools are established, we are to study what industries can be started that will give the students employment. Medical Ministry 323. Staff, worker, and student homes. Connected with our sanitariums, there should be lands, small portions of which can be used for the homes of the helpers and others who are receiving a training for medical missionary work. Counsels on Health 227. Lecture halls. When the light came that we should begin sanitarium work, the reasons were plainly given. There were many who needed to be educated in regard to healthful living. As a part of the treatment, lectures were to be given on right habits of eating and drinking and dressing. Instruction was to be given regarding the choice and the preparation of food, showing that food may be prepared so as to be wholesome and nourishing, and at the same time appetizing and palatable. Counsels on Health 469. In all our health institutions, it should be made a special feature of the work to give instruction in regard to the laws of health. The principles of health reform should be carefully and thoroughly set before all, both patients and helpers. This work requires moral courage. Counsels on Health 452. Cooking schools. Connected with our sanitariums and schools, there should be cooking schools where instruction is given on the proper preparation of food. In all our schools, there should be those who are fitted to educate the students, both men and women, in the art of cooking. Women especially should learn how to cook. Medical Ministry 270. Counsels on Health 469. These country centers are to be operated in connection with each other. Sanitariums are to be united with health lectures and cooking schools. Counsels on Health 469 to 470. Sanitariums are to be established in connection with our schools in order to train all of our people, young and old, as medical missionaries. Medical Ministry 156. Counsels on Health 211, 225, 227, 243 to 244, 301. Medical Ministry 323. Sanitariums are to be united with agricultural schools. Counsels on Health 223. Schools are to be united with agricultural farms. Counsels on Health 223. Medical Ministry 79. Schools are to be connected with student industries. Medical Ministry 323. Sanitariums and schools are to be connected with cooking schools. Medical Ministry 270. Sanitariums are to have lecture rooms. Counsels on Health 469. The city centers are to act as feeders for the country centers. I have been given light that in many cities it is advisable for a restaurant to be connected with treatment rooms. These establishments will serve as feeders to the sanitariums located in the country. Counsels on Health 488. Henceforth, medical missionary work is to be carried forward with greater earnestness. Medical missions should be opened as pioneer agencies for the proclamation of the third angel's message. A special work is to be done in places where people are constantly coming and going. Christ labored in Capernaum much of the time because this was a place through which travelers were constantly passing and where many often tarried. Christ sought the people where they were and placed before them the great truths in regard to his kingdom. As he went from place to place, he blessed and comforted the suffering and healed the sick. This is our work. Counsels on Health 500 to 501. For more on this, read 9 Testimonies 121 to 122. Counsels on Health 3:18, Ministry of Healing 22:29-30, Luke 4:28-41, 5:17-19. The great teacher laid plans for his work. Study these plans. We find him traveling from place to place, followed by crowds of eager listeners. When he could, he would lead them away from the crowded cities to the quiet of the country. Here he would pray with them and talk to them of eternal truths. Medical Ministry 299. Read the entire page. For more on this, Ministry of Healing 52-54, Christ Object Lessons 24-27, Ministry of Healing 261-268, Matthew 5 verse 1, 13 verse 1-2, 14 verse 13-14, 15 verse 29-30. Extent of the Medical Missionary Centers into the cities of America. Let many now ask, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? It is the Lord's purpose that his method of healing without drugs shall be brought into prominence in every large city through our medical institutions. God invests with holy dignity those who go forth in his power to heal the sick. Let the light shine forth farther and still farther in every place to which it is possible to obtain entrance. Satan will make the work as difficult as possible, but divine power will attend all true-hearted workers. Guided by our Heavenly Father's hand, let us go forward, improving every opportunity to extend the work of God. Medical Ministry 325. Missions are essential as the foundation of missionary effort in our cities. Gospel Workers 365. In every city where we have a church, there is need of a place where treatment can be given. Councils on Health 468. Intemperance has filled our world, and medical missions should be established in every city. By this I do not mean that large institutions should be established, calling for a large outlay of means. Medical Ministry 322. Beginnings might be made in every prominent place where camp meetings, at this time, itinerant evangelistic efforts are held. Make small beginnings and enlarge as circumstances may demand. Councils on Health 468. Centers should be made in all the cities that are unacquainted with the great work that the Lord would have done to warn the world that the end of all things is at hand. Councils on Health 214. Henceforth, medical missionary work is to be carried forward with an earnestness with which it has never yet been carried. This work is the door through which the truth is to find entrance to the large cities. 9 Testimonies 167. Boston and other New England cities. Councils on Health 554-555. New York 7 Testimonies 37. San Francisco 7 Testimonies 110-111. Los Angeles 7 Testimonies 55. San Diego 7 Testimonies 55. Southern California 7 Testimonies 112. The South 7 Testimonies 57 and 227. Councils on Health 494. Prominent thoroughfares. Councils on Health 500-501. Tourist resorts 7 Testimonies 55. Inland and seaside resorts. Councils on Health 488. Into foreign fields. In foreign countries, many enterprises for the advancement of this message must yet be begun and carried forward. The opening of hygienic restaurants and treatment rooms and the establishment of sanitariums for the care of the sick and the suffering is just as necessary in Europe as in America. 7 Testimonies 51. The Lord is working impartially for every part of his vineyard. In foreign lands, many medical missionary enterprises are to be started and carried forward to success. Councils on Health 224. In many lands, medical missions are to be established to act as God's helping hand in ministering to the afflicted. 7 Testimonies 51. Into all the world. Christ embraced the world in his missionary work, and the Lord has shown me by revelation that it is not his plan for large centers to be made, for large institutions to be established, and for the funds of our people in all parts of the world to be exhausted in the support of a few large institutions, when the necessities of the times call for something to be done as providence opens the way in many places. Plants should be established in various places all over the world. First one, and then another part of the vineyard is to be entered, until all has been cultivated. Efforts are to be put forth wherever the need is greatest. But we cannot carry on this aggressive warfare and at the same time make an extravagant outlay of means in a few places. Counsels on Health 2:14. Henceforth, medical missionary work is to be carried forward with greater earnestness. Medical missions should be opened as pioneer agencies for the proclamation of the third angel's message. How great is the need of means to do this line of work. Gospel medical missions cannot be established without financial aid. Every such enterprise calls for our sympathy and for our means, that facilities may be provided to make the work successful. Counsels on Health 500. God has qualified his people to enlighten the world. He has entrusted them with faculties by which they are to extend his work until it shall encircle the globe. In all parts of the earth, they are to establish sanitariums, schools, publishing houses, and kindred facilities for the accomplishment of his work. 7 Testimonies 51. There is a great demand in all parts of the world for Christian teachers and for medical missionaries. In all parts of the field, both at home and abroad, are open doors for those who can do good to body and soul, presenting the precious light of truth. The past neglect in this direction must not be perpetuated. Great light has shone upon our pathway in some directions more than others, and yet our advance along these very lines has been far behind the light we have had. Fundamentals of Christian Education 231 to 232. It is the Lord's purpose that in every part of our world health institutions shall be established as a branch of the gospel work. These institutions are to be his agencies for reaching a class whom nothing else will reach. They need not be large buildings, but should be so arranged that effective work may be done. Counsels on Health 468. There is no change in the messages that God has given in the past. The work in the cities is the essential work for this time. When the cities are worked as God would have them worked, the result will be the setting in operation of a mighty movement such as we have not yet witnessed. Medical Ministry 304. We shall see the medical missionary work broadening and deepening at every point of its progress because of the inflowing of hundreds and thousands of streams until the whole earth is covered as the waters cover the sea. Medical Ministry 317. The only hope of better things is in the education of the people in right principles. Let physicians teach the people that restorative power is not in drugs, but in nature. Ministry of Healing 127. This has been a production of Moisture by Sandia, promoting heavenly moisture with natural products, and GLAM, Global Anointing Movement, reawakening our need of the Holy Spirit to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ with power. Visit us at www.moisturebysandia.com to learn more.